So good morning, everyone, and we are so excited to have you with us this morning. We have a very good crowd, and that speaks volumes to what's going on in the market and the interest that you folks have in what's going on as well. It's been about 8 weeks or so since life has changed for so many of us, and we've it's a true testament to human nature. We are very adaptable, and we're very pleased to be telling you some of the things that we're going to talk about this morning. We've hosted several of these sessions over the past few weeks. Everyone seems to be just a little bit different in that we're sharing information as we know it. And the good thing is, it's been a bit of a rough go, but that was kind of a temporary blip. What we're seeing is things are looking brighter and brighter every day, and we're seeing more and more positive signs. So that is very exciting for us to share those things with you. So over the next hour or so, our intention is to bring together a team of experts for you, if you will, and I'll introduce them in a moment. And our objective is to share our knowledge, to communicate to you in real time what we are seeing in the market, and to provide to you, hopefully, the information that you need in order to think through your decisions and your processes in the days and weeks to come. We're going to be doing this through conversation and presentation. And we've also had some questions throughout about, are you open for business? How are you doing business? And we're going to cover that as well. So first, I want to start off by introducing my team of experts, if you will. Jason Neese, if you wave to us.
Morning.
So Jason is our broker manager for the Weichert Morristown office, and Jason is he's a dynamo. He's full of information, full of excitement, and always here for us as agents and for our clients as well. So we are thrilled to have Jason with us. And Jason's going to be sharing an overview from a broker and a regional perspective about what's going on in the market. Tim Alston, we have with us. Tim is with Weichert Financial, and he has his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the financial and the mortgage market today. So Tim is our expert that we're going to defer to, and he'll share his views on what's going on. We have Ray Perrone. Ray is with Weichert Title, and title is a very important part of the process in terms of closing on a home, and for many of you, I don't know if this is your first time or you've done this a number of times, but it's very important to have title and a good, very good title person as part of this process. And then Janet Navarro, there you go, Janet. Janet is a crackerjack real estate attorney, and she's like a dog with a bone when it comes to hitting challenges head on, and she's super accessible and super knowledgeable and just a great partner. So the reason that I bring these folks together is it is critical, especially in a time like this. I mean, it was before, but now even more so, to have your best team of players with you as you move forward. Trust me, it is hard enough to get a transaction where both a buyer and seller agree to do something. And the last thing that you want to do is see that transaction fall apart because you don't have the players in the proper roles helping buyers and sellers move forward with the transaction. So I'm very, very pleased to have these folks with us today, and they'll share their views of the market with you. So what I'd like to do at this point is turn it over to Jason, and Jason can talk to you a little bit about Weichert and why we feel confident that we are able to meet these challenges head on, and what we're seeing as well. So Jason,
Great.
Let me share my screen with you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk to you guys. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen just an increased interest in what's going on in the housing market. Every week, we're seeing more people join this call. So really appreciate you guys giving us some time on your weekend. hear about what's going on in the real estate market and hear what we are doing here at Weichert to get our clients in and out of the homes in New Jersey. So want to share a little bit about what makes Weichert special, and it's really in a unique position as a company. Most companies are either one of two things. They're either very small and nimble or very large and slow moving. And Weichert's in a really unique position as the 7th largest brokerage in the country, the 8th largest franchise in the country, 15,000 agents and $36 billion in annual revenue, to have a lot of size and be able to throw money and energy at problems, be able to coordinate all of those agents across the region. And the majority of those 15,000 agents are from Virginia to New York. So the lion's share of those agents are happening right here on the East Coast. But because we're privately owned and because Jim and James Weichert still run the business, we can still move very quick, like a small company, like a mom and pop company, but have the strength and the size and the wherewithal to coordinate and to really make high level and powerful moves in the marketplace, which is just an amazing thing to be a part of. So, part of that is with our family of companies, and we've got 2 of those people with us today with our financial services and our title services. But being able to have that kind of control and the wherewithal to get things done is phenomenal. So, our mortgage company is different than all the mortgage companies you might be dealing with online pre-approvals. We service our own mortgages in-house. Our title company is unbelievable. We have a 99% customer approval rating. We're getting our title work done in 14 days or less, even during this pandemic. When we get to use the whole weight and the whole strength of our company, our clients are happy. They get unbelievable service from A to Z without having to pick up the phone to speak with somebody else. And our transactions close at a higher rate than when we don't use our partners. So I love having that resource to me as an agent. I love being able to give those resources to my clients. And I love working for a company that puts its money where its mouth is. Lisa's going to be talking about some of our internet strategies. Company is spending $2 million a month to make sure our homes get noticed. Our call center is a $30 million service that makes sure that 100% of our phone calls gets answered. So being able to have all of those resources at our fingertips, plus all of our new technology pieces that we're using to operate in a virtual world, has just been fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And the time is critical on that. We have all the pieces in place, I think, right at the right time, because we're doing business today very differently than we had 6 or 8 weeks ago in a lot of ways. And so, it's very good to be, it's very helpful for us as realtors and agents to have the strength of a company like this behind us. So we're delighted about that. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of history that will help us put the future into perspective. So for many of us, when the pandemic first started, we looked at that and we said, oh no, not another recession, not another crash. And I think in our most recent memory, the history is, you think back to 2008, when, times were very difficult, and, it was a tough time. So what I'd like to do is help you understand that today is very different from our recent history, in that back in 2008, the factors surrounding the recession and the market crash, if you will, was because real estate was a central part of that process. The lending laws were lax. People basically used their homes as piggy banks. People had been cashing out a lot of equity from their homes. So if you look back at 2008, down here on the slide, people had cashed out about $824 billion out of their homes. So sellers did not have, or homeowners did not have much equity in their homes. The market was unstable. We have learned so much since then. The market is on, it's been on stable footing. because homeowners have been started to treat their homes more responsibly. The lending laws certainly have changed significantly, so that you need more than a pulse in order to buy a home. We are seeing that people are more confident and they are using their homes. If you look at total equity cashed out last year, up to last year, you're looking at a fraction of what it was 12 years ago. So people have a much stronger foundation in their homes. The chief economist of the National Association of Realtors indicated early on that he thought that home sales would begin to decline this season because of the unique circumstances that we're facing. When the pandemic did hit, it derailed us a bit. However, some of the subsequent things have not followed. We are not seeing panic selling. We are not seeing home prices depreciating. And in fact, what we're seeing is a very unique set of opportunities that are coming out of this. The New York, New Jersey area was hard hit, just primarily because we're a hub for this pandemic. We're in an international trade zone. And so one would expect that the virus transmission has been significantly higher here than it was before. However, what we're also seeing is that the rebound of what is happening is also we're ahead of the curve in terms of what we're doing, and we can talk with that from numbers. We can talk about that from personal experience and anecdotal experience of what's going on in the market today. So we're going to share some of those insights with you. Okay, so just a couple things. Don't believe everything you read. For every good headline or every bad headline, you'll see a good one. And the point here is that the housing market is very local. It's based on the state that you're in, the county that you're in, the neighborhood that you're in, and even the town, and even down to the home that you have. So the key point here is that it is very important to understand the news of the day in the context of what your specific situation is. And so the importance of having people like myself and like my team who are looking at this data and turning it into information that's actionable, that can help you, similar like this event today. What we're trying to do is help educate and help people understand how to move forward in what can be a very confusing time. So we wanted to put some numbers around this and sort of quantify what's going on. So it's helpful to get down in the weeds a little bit and look at we're gonna give you a little basic real estate course here, and give you a sense of what we look at when we're looking at markets. So Jason, you want to take over?
Sure. So how we measure the health and the appreciation or depreciation of a particular market is by a measurement that we call absorption rate. So what absorption rate is the total number of active listings divided by the number of properties that went under contract or sold in the last 30 days. And that number gives us the monthly supply or the absorption rate of homes. So if a particular town has an absorption rate of 6 months, that means if no other homes came onto the market over the next 6 months, every active house on the market you would expect to disappear to the point that you had 0 active properties. So 6 is kind of our neutral figure, and you can hover from 5 to 6 or from 6 to 7 kind of for our neutral target. But anything below 6, and particularly below 5, you're definitely into a seller's market. Anything above 6, you end up in a buyer's market. So what does that mean to buyers or sellers trying to buy homes in that place? So if I'm a buyer and I'm looking in a town that has an absorption rate of less than 5, I can expect to see homes go fairly quickly. I'm not going to be able to get things like closing costs included, and I'm probably not going to be able to negotiate too much on the sales price. It's going to stay in that 99 to 98% sale price to list price ratio. Now, as that absorption rate climbs over 6, you start to have homes that sit on the market a little bit longer. You're able to negotiate a little bit harder on the price of the home, and you're able to ask for more things. So you may have the seller pick up your closing costs, or have more aggressive negotiations on the inspections. So just wanted you guys to have that kind of background, so that when we start to look at our actual towns and a more closer look to see kind of the health of our markets as of today. So in almost all of our primary towns, we see numbers below that 5% threshold. So Hanover below, Morris Plains below, Morris Township very below. Now you do see Harding up at 9.67, which is in a buyer's market range, but on a 12-month average, we typically see Harding, anywhere from a 12 to 24-month absorption. So to see it down 9.67 is actually better than it's been prior to this thing. But homes at that price range are generally staying a lot higher. Now, you do have to be careful when you look at the numbers, because these are speaking to the entire market of that town. So when you look in Morristown, for example, you see an absorption rate of 8.6 and an average sale price of $425,000. So the actual average sale price for the town is closer to 500, but the total number of homes on the market right now at 43, over a third of those homes are over $900,000. So what you're seeing in that market is you're seeing those higher priced homes sitting on the market and those lower priced homes coming on and coming off very quickly. So it's giving us a skewed figure there. So you do want to even narrow these numbers down even more in some cases. In some of our other towns, in Denville, we're seeing a really aggressive seller's market at 3.8. Madison, again, at a higher price point, just over 6 at 6.86. Mendham lagging behind there at 12.67, which on a 12-month average isn't that different from what we've seen. But we are seeing the township pick up some steam there at 7.43, and Randolph down to 5.07. What's interesting about Randolph is that's a really great price point town, offers a lot of amenities, but what's interesting is that number is less than half of what it was a week ago. So some of these markets are really waking up, and waking up fast. So to give you an idea of sales volume, our office currently has as many sales today as we had for the entire 30 days prior to this month. Almost all of our markets saw a 3 to 4-fold increase in new listings coming onto the market, and a 3 to 4-fold increase in properties going under contract, keeping these absorption rates really low and really great for sellers.
And also, Jason, we do this just so that everyone knows. This is one of the ways that we look at things, and we do this for every market that we're in. I know some of the folks that are on this call are from different areas, some in Somerset County, some in Essex County, and so what we do is take this information for each of the counties, each of the towns, and really, study it, track it, follow it, and, so that we as realtors can help our clients make the best decisions, whether they're buyers or sellers. And just to use something as an example, so let's pick Mendham Borough, just to hit home with this, Jason, in terms of if I were a buyer in looking for a home in Mendham Borough, could I, in terms of competition and what would my actions be as a buyer in Mendham Borough versus a buyer in Denville, let's say?
Sure. So if I was representing a buyer in Mendham or a seller, they have to know what's going on in that marketplace and what the data shows. So the data shows is that we are squarely in a buyer's market in the Mendham market. You don't have to be as fast to get your offers out. You're often not going to be competing against other buyers in that marketplace on those homes. So you can take your time a little bit and have a slower negotiation where you're a little bit harder on the seller. Where in Denville, at that 3.11 mark, these are properties that are going to go on the market Tuesday, have 40 showings over the weekend, and be asking for highest and best on Monday, with offers going over asking in a lot of cases. And again, you'll see that a lot of these are following the average price point. So average price point in Denville is at 3.77. So we are seeing a ton of movement in that, 350 to 450 range. Those towns that settle in that zone are performing very well.
Yeah. So hopefully this helps people understand that, you know, when everybody says, you know, the sky is falling and prices are dropping and whatever, um, these numbers help put things in perspective. One thing that I'd like to talk with you about is, you know, when we talk about whether it's a buyer's or a seller's market and whether home prices are appreciating or depreciating. A good way to look at it is, you know, as Jason was mentioning, you know, if you're in a strong seller's market, let's say homes are selling in a 1 to 2 month period, you know, so if your home is selling so quickly as a seller, you can price more aggressively. You can see that you're clearly in an appreciating market. You know, the guideline here is 15 to 20%. So you can really command more from your home from the buyer who's making an offer on your home. And then conversely, if you're in a lagging market where prices are or absorption rates are like at the 8-month level, let's say, you're more in a depreciating market in terms of you know, buyer offers might be a little bit lower. So this helps us understand our negotiating power, the way to proceed in terms of making an offer, and you know, it's basic guidance, if you will. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we are seeing on a day-to-day basis right now. So as only natural, if you know, this being confined is starting to drive people a little bit crazy. And when you think about the densely populated areas like New York, Philadelphia, Hoboken, Jersey City, where you're in a small apartment or a small space and crowds outside, people are looking now at their safety, at their, you know, the trade-offs of that versus, you know, living in a less densely populated area. So our brokerage site and other top portals are seeing that about 70% of the people who are searching for homes who are in those densely populated urban areas, when they conduct their searches, they're looking for homes not in New York City or not in Philadelphia where, you know, where they are, but they're looking for the suburbs outside this. And for us, for where we sit in the market, we're located in the Morristown market, but again, our coverage is pretty wide. What we are seeing is a tremendous amount of people who are coming from the city areas, the New York, even Connecticut. We're seeing some folks from Boston come down. So, you know, there is a lot of, there are some things that are coming out of this, which, you know, we didn't realize going in. And so some of the opportunities that we are seeing are an increased level of searches for homes in these areas. And here's just another bit of data. We are very data driven, and again, we look at all numbers. There was a Harris poll that was conducted recently at the end of April, and their survey of 2,050 people surveyed basically said 39% of them said that they were looking at migrating from their urban place to a less crowded place. You know, the things that we may see come out of that are people are looking for places that have more space, maybe more amenities, maybe homes with pools are becoming more popular than they were before. So we're definitely seeing a shift in the market from an urban market to a suburban market as well. And then just another, you know, another headline that talks to the same thing, because it really is, we're seeing it in real time and we're seeing it happen.
Lisa, I want to address a couple of questions that relate to the slides that we're on and that we've covered. So
Sure.
One of the questions that came up is part of what driving the absorption rate that people took their homes off the market, and that's definitely been at play here. So at the same time that we lost some volume of buyers, we lost even more sellers. And as we start to see this, migration out of these urban cores, and that's 40% of 9 million people wanting to get out. That doesn't count Weehawken, Jersey City, Hoboken. We're going to have hundreds of thousands of people trying to relocate out of the cities into the suburban market. So we have a greater than normal reduction in inventory, and we are matching that with a greater than normal surge in buyers. And we're starting to see some early signs of that coming through, but this could get to crazy levels. The lowest number we saw in our absorption was 3. We can see some of these towns, possibly get into the 1 month absorption if we see some of these numbers come out.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it's important to know, and I'm not sure I stressed this up front, is that we were in a very, very strong market coming into this in 2020. Consumer confidence was high, unemployment was low. And like we had a tailwind that was just leading us to the best market from a real estate perspective in history. And at that time, the biggest challenge that we faced, it was an inventory challenge, a supply challenge. So we did not have enough homes to sell coming into this. That hasn't changed. And I think what we're seeing is an undersupply, and for people who have taken their homes off the market, they've even made the undersupply greater. And what we need is we need those homes on the market in order to sell. I think we have a few questions coming in on that, Jay.
Yeah, let me see. Oh, there we go. They're just saying thanks for presenting the answer.
Okay.
So, it's not just New Yorkers who are advancing their buy plans. I've been covering the phones for the office, so I get a lot of the opportunity calls that come in on a weekly basis. And, even people who already live in New Jersey who are renting or living with parents have decided that they're going to move ahead to make a purchase. They don't want to be stuck and stranded anymore in an uncomfortable position. And people who were, maybe 6 months or 9 months out from making a purchase said, no, the time is now, because I want out of my place and I want into a more comfortable, safe place to live.
Yeah. Did we hit all the questions on that?
I believe so.
Okay, well, we're open to more as we go along. Again, the more interactive and the more we're answering your questions head on, the better. So one of the things that people ask us, and we're fortunate in New Jersey in that from a real estate perspective, we early on we were designated one of the places that were open for business. And often the question is, well, how is that possible when, with everything going on? So I wanted to share with you a little bit about how things are done today versus the way they were done 8 weeks ago, or maybe not done as much 8 weeks ago. So seemingly overnight, we have shifted our thought process from a very close contact, high touch, customer centric operation to a very technological one, yet still we have the customer and the client at the center of everything that we do. And we're very pleased at the efficiency and the effectiveness of the way things are going. And the biggest thing that we're most pleased about is that the impact on the customer really hasn't changed. We still have very happy, very satisfied customers, because our job is to help them do what they intend to do, whether it's to buy or sell a home. So some of the ways that we do this, we have virtual presentations, whether it's with a seller listing their home or a buyer trying to buy a home. We'll meet with you. If in person isn't a comfortable thing, what we'll do is we'll meet with you online, and we'll walk through presentations and consultations very similar to what we're doing right now, providing you the facts, the details, and all the information that you need to move forward with what you're doing. following that, we do a lot of live virtual events, and whether they're open houses or buyer events, you know, you have a lot of media, a lot of information that is online, and I think the media, the 3D walkthroughs, the videos, everything is getting better and better and giving prospective buyers a good look at homes. Not only do we do that, but we also offer to host live virtual open houses or live virtual events, in that we will, as realtors, go to a home with our computer, with our cell phone, and walk through as if we are walking through with our client at our side. You know, we have a tremendous amount of technology that we are able to take advantage of, and we're thrilled at you know, all the things that we're able to do with that. Of course, everything that we do, safety is our #1 priority. So you can be rest assured that we have very responsible people who are following very responsible and practical guidelines. For example, when I show my listings and bring buyers into homes, the first thing that we do is ask for, we require a COVID-19 disclosure. And it basically talks about, you know, any previous illnesses or things that we need to be careful of. And it discloses information about that, and acknowledges that both buyer and seller have agreed to take the next step and walk through this home. We do everything with disposable gloves, all the protective equipment, shoe covers, and you know, when I open cabinets and doors and things like that, I do it with the wipes and the gloves. And I ask the prospective buyers, please not to touch anything, use the bathroom, etc. So, you know, we're very, very respectful and very understanding of the situation, and we want to keep everyone's safety, you know, first and foremost. So, you know, we treat this very seriously, and, you know, it's for our protection. Some people are, you know, are hesitant to let people in their homes, and you know, in those cases, we'll work something out in terms of, we'll do a video conference maybe with the seller to help show us things. Jay,
Yeah, let me play a little devil's advocate here, because, you know, I think some people's initial thoughts on seeing all of these virtual tools is, yeah, right, nobody's going to buy my house off a picture, right, or off a video tour. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, you as our manager have the statistics, but anecdotally, I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I do know that people have bought homes totally through virtual showings. And so we have a lot of success stories about that, and I know you've got the numbers on it.
Well, you know, we're seeing it increase all the time, and oftentimes these virtual tours get people down a road to have an in-person tour, right? So, you know, there certainly are people who have bought a house without ever stepping foot into it by utilizing 3D tours and walkthrough tours and driving the neighborhood. But more often than not, it gets somebody over the hump to see a property or not, right? So if you're competing against another listing that just has, you know, stationary photos versus a property that has all sorts of tours and highlights, and the buyer has ability to ask questions to a realtor and say, hey, I didn't see this one part of the basement, or what does that bathroom look like, because it's not photographed, and it gets people to the next step. So we can't have groups of people into your house, but we are using every tool that we have at our disposal to initiate private showings. Now, sometimes these showings are happening after they've got an accepted offer, but prior to it being under contract. Sometimes it gets somebody into a position where they're going to make a drive out from New York or from Philadelphia to see a property. But it's part of the puzzle, and it gives our listings an advantage over listings that don't.
And I think, just to add on to that, one of the benefits of that also is that we're seeing a more scrubbed, if you will, set of buyers who are coming through, because they've done all their homework with all the tools and resources online. When they make that request to see the home, they know what they're looking at. versus, you know, sometimes we'll walk into a place and people say, well, it doesn't have a pool. And well, it didn't, this listing didn't have a pool. So it helps buyers be more in tune with, you know, what they're looking for and pay closer attention to the details, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
And, you know, our job is to expose your property, but also to not expose you. So we're going to narrow the people down to the most qualified people. So, you know, everybody's got to have a pre-approval come in. Everybody is going to have gone through one of our buyer's consultations before we're going to expose your house to the general public. We want to make sure it's a house that fits and a person who's qualified. We're not bringing tire kickers, neighbors. We're not bringing in somebody who's thinks that the market has fallen out and they could offer $200,000 less on a property. We're cutting that off well before they get any chance to get into your property.
Absolutely. Just a little bit more on the importance of technology and social media. I'm a technologist by trade, so my background is in information technology, and I am so excited about all the tools and the capabilities that we now have in order to you know, bring homes to life for people. So the platforms that I take advantage of and that I use on a regular basis are ones that integrate to that get to where people are. So whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, the best media is going to those platforms, and it's serving the clients and serving that information to them. So not only can we put it out there, but the important thing is that we can also track that information for our clients as well. So when I have listings, for example, I'll often boost the properties that I have, and everybody's familiar with Facebook boosts. Well, if you just did that through Facebook, which I have done prior, it's a very arduous process. But with the tools and technologies that we have in place right now to do this, it's seamless and it's streamlined. And not only am I able to put information out there, but I'm also able to track the information that helps me understand where our property is positioned with, you know, with the rest of properties on the market, et cetera. So I can look at the number of impressions, the number of people who are seeing this property, and the number of, you know, the level of interest and clicks, and the number of people who are actually requesting more information about this. So it's just very, very exciting to have the opportunity to work in this new way. Any further thoughts on that, Jay?
Yeah, so, you know, what I think is really special about this and what makes ours different, you know, any person with a Facebook business page has the ability to do a boosted post. But through our lead management system, we have a very special ability here to capture the leads, right? So getting the impressions that you see there on that left-hand column, the 1933 to 7849, you know, these are not unprecedented impression rates. What is unprecedented is the numbers that come after that. Being able to translate those impressions into clicks, shares, and leads. And when you see that lead column, that means we have an email, phone number, an address, a name of the person who's interested on a property. So it allows us to follow up with those people, get into their feed to continue to advertise this property and other properties, to, you know, send them a virtual tour, to send them that Matterport tour. So it allows us to engage on those impressions at a much higher level than we've ever been able to do before. And then from a legal standpoint, realtors are held to a very strict code of ethics, and for advertising, we're bound by the fair housing regulations. Now, realtors posting on their own on Facebook, 9 times out of 10 are breaking some fair housing laws in what they're doing for advertising. This system is advertising in a 100% compliant way, and resulting in actionable leads with the contact information. So a huge difference from what we were able to do before, and really transforming my agent's ability to market and advertise a property, and to control the market views on a property in a way we've never been able to do before.
Awesome. Thank you. So just one more little piece of to see media in action. So I'll show you two examples. One is a property that I recently had that just sold in Harding Township. To do something like a video, just to give people a flavor of the town. I'll just play a few seconds of this clip so that you can see the quality and the ability of this. Hi, I'm here with Ryan from Front Door Photography, and we're at a great new Harding listing. I wanted to give you a sneak peek and also get a few thoughts from Ryan about his favorite parts of the listing.
My three favorite things in this home are the den, the kitchen, and the backyard, and they're all kind of connected. They all are beautifully lit. You don't need any curtains because it's so private, so you can just let the light flow in. The den is beautiful woodwork, built-ins, beautiful floors. The kitchen here is
so I'll stop it there, but I wanted to, in that particular video, my intent was to look at this through the eyes of a professional photographer as well. So we highlighted the homes and the features there, and also some beauty shots of the town. So I think that helps give people a feel of, you know, the neighborhood that they would be interested in. Another very important, I think, tool that we have is 3D interactive tours. Now, this is something that I've been using on every listing for years, and it's become more and more important today because it gives buyers, again, the ability to look at a home as if they were there. So I just want to make sure that you guys can see this. Can you see this?
I see the same slides that were up before.
Okay, so I am going to share.
There you go.
Okay, so it's very, very powerful to be able to walk through a home. This is pretty cool online. You know, you can, you know, look at all the details and things like that. It's even better if you have the ability to view this through 3D goggles. So you feel as if you're in it. You feel as if you were there. So this virtual reality is a very important aspect, I think, of showing homes. It was before, and it is even more so now. All right, so let me stop that share. And okay, so that kind of concludes the virtual part of the presentation and some of the tools that we have. I am going to pull up another, give me a second, Tim. I'm going to get the slides up. And I'm going to invite Tim to talk with you a little bit now about the financial services portion of what we're doing.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Again, so Tim Alston with Weichert Financial. My home base is in Morristown, but I do cover the entire state of New Jersey. I've been in the mortgage industry for just over 20 years now. Had a brief stint, about 8 years, actually underwriting mortgages. So I do bring a unique experience to home buyers and home sellers with that background. It's priceless to me, and just makes for you know, much easier transactions. I find things up front that could potentially hurt a deal or a client or a buyer, you know, ahead of the curve. So we kind of tackle that ahead of the time. So that's just a little bit of my background.
And Tim would never mention this himself, but I'm going to mention it for him. Tim was the #1 mortgage rep in our company for the second month in a row.
Thanks, Jeff.
And I think that tells you everything you need to know about his ability to work in this business.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. Yeah, getting back, what I did, I kind of put together a couple questions that, like the most popular questions that have been asked to me during the pandemic. Obviously, the first one, where are interest rates now and where are they headed? So interest rates continue to stay historically low. Last week and the week before, we've actually seen history take place with some of the lowest rates ever. So it's keeping the affordability for buyers up, which is great. So buyers can afford more. Rates continue to hover in the low threes on a 30-year fixed. A lot of the industry experts that I trust and that I listen to and read expect them to stay at these levels for quite some time. Probably definitely through summer of 2021. Obviously I can't guarantee that. I wish I could, but the people that I trust and listen to do expect them to stay at these levels, possibly even go a little bit lower at some point. But it's all left to be seen, and all we can do is hope and pray that they stay at these low 3 levels on a 30-year fixed, which again just keeps affordability up, keeps buyers active, and it's just a great thing. Second question is, how am I able to perform my day-to-day job activities? So I'm very fortunate where I can perform all my duties honestly, I could probably do it all from my phone. But having the computer and the phone, I can perform everything I can do as if I was sitting in my office. So pre-approvals are still getting done at a rapid pace. I'm able to get documents from clients via email, fax, even gave out my home address. Somebody had to drop off tax returns that did not have the ability to fax or email. So I gave him my home address and he dropped them off, and I was able to scan them in from my home. So super flexible, available 7 days a week. Whenever anybody needs me, I'm here.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other mortgage pieces that have to happen, like the appraisals and?
Absolutely, yeah. So appraisals were a big thing too, as far as letting appraisers into homes. We've come up with a couple different strategies to get around that. So obviously, the most important thing, getting a full traditional appraisal done. I feel like you just get a little better quality. So we could still do the full traditional appraisal as long as everybody is on board and okay. And obviously, the appraisers are doing all the safety precautions they need to when they're walking through the home. But if there is a homeowner or seller that does not want anyone walking through their home, we could certainly accommodate that with either a drive-by appraisal or what's called the desk review. So literally the appraisal just does everything they normally do without walking through the home. If need be, they'll ask for pictures from the homeowner, and the homeowner can literally walk around, take pictures of the kitchen, bathrooms, attic space, basement, and send them to the appraiser so they can finish up the report. But we've certainly been able to accommodate every single scenario and have not run into any issues. So third question, how has COVID-19 impacted the mortgage market? It's impacted the mortgage market just like everything else. We've been able to adjust for everything that's happened. Some investors have actually pulled out of the mortgage market altogether. Some have temporarily suspended offering their products. There was still, believe it or not, a no documentation loan out there. It's called a non-QM product. And a lot of those, if not all of them, have temporarily suspended or completely shut down. They just are not taking new applications at this time. Cash out refinances have all but dried up. We could still offer them, but they are becoming super expensive, meaning interest rate adjustments were put into place on cash out refinances. Just ways to protect the homeowner, the potential buyer, the whole real estate market in general. It was eye-opening in 2008. So everyone's trying to prevent a catastrophe like that happening again, where people take out too much equity on their home, foreclose. So there's just been policies put into place to protect everyone. We actually had a situation too, I'll just talk about it briefly, 2 weeks ago, where a big name bank, where if I mention the name of the bank, I'm not going to do that, but if I mention the name of the bank, you all have heard of it. It's probably the top 3 or 4 lenders in the country. They literally pulled a commitment from one of our buyers 2 weeks before closing. The program dried up. They no longer offered it. And they told the buyer, unfortunately, we're pulling the commitment. We cannot close you. So he had a relationship with this bank. I talked to him before he went to them and reached out to me at 9:30 at night when this happened. And thankfully, I was able to step in, help him out, and get him the financing that he needed to buy this home. And we kept his closing date right on target. We did not miss the closing date, and closed this past week, and was super happy. And I was just glad that I was able to step in and help him out. But even the big banks, you do need to, be careful and make sure that your pre-approval is solid. There's nothing that can potentially, fall apart during that time.
Tim, can you tell me a little bit about why you're able to get a mortgage closed in 2 weeks when a large lending institution is deciding not to do it?
Yeah, I feel like like you kind of touched on in the beginning of the call. I mean, Weichert does bring a unique proposition to the table where we are a family-owned company, and we run our business as if you really are part of the family. This guy came to me almost in tears. I took the call at 9:30, was on the phone with him until after 10, gathered all his documents, reached out to my operations team that evening with an email, a detailed situation as to what was going on. And everybody, took his story, took his situation by heart, and we all came together as a team and got him closed. So I feel like, we run in a way that we can get transactions still closed within 30 days. But if there is that case that needs to be done in a 2-week time period, I feel like we have the capability to do that just because of our unique proposition and how we do it. So our operations team is fully operational, working from home, and our turn times have not been impacted really at all. And if there is that rush situation, we can do it. So,
So some of our competitors, when they produce a mortgage, they don't really hold that mortgage, right? They sell it on the open market afterwards, right?
Correct. Yep.
And they're making decisions based on what on their ability to sell those mortgages once they've created them, correct?
Correct.
So what we're doing is different, is that we're making the decision to hold those mortgages and service those mortgages, even if there isn't a market outside of us that wants to buy them.
That's right. So yeah, especially due to the pandemic, we made the decision to service every one of our closings, which is great, because even after closing, you just never know what can happen. And if we're servicing it, then I have more of a personal touch even after closing, where if God forbid somebody needs something because they were furloughed, or because God forbid lost a job, I'm always here. I'm always available. You could always reach out to me, and I could help you through that process through the servicing department.
So there's probably the last couple of calls, it's been half buyers and half sellers. So if I'm a seller of a property and I see 5 different pre-approvals, in front of me, what do I want to watch out for? What programs or what mortgages do you need to be more cautious with than others?
Yep. So today, definitely the FHA product. That's a government product. It's still available. It's still a great product for buyers with little money down. But the guidelines have tightened up as far as, more strict credit score requirements, definitely more strict debt to income ratio requirements. That FHA was probably the most lenient product, but they also take a little bit of a beating because of that. So as soon as this happened, they increased their minimum credit score requirement. They tightened up the debt to income ratio requirements, require reserves in some cases. So it has tightened up. So I would be on a lookout for that. And just really on a lookout for just make sure that the buyers are qualified.
What about in the jumbo space?
Jumbo space as well. Yeah. So any loan amount over $510,000, any mortgage amount over that puts you into a high balance, and then anything over 726 puts you into a jumbo space. So they have also tightened up their guidelines. So if you do have a home that you're selling that could potentially be in that market space, just give an extra look at it. Of course, I'm always available. I would be more than happy to help anybody out to look at a pre-approval to, kind of see if there's anything glaring that could potentially hurt. But all these market spaces have definitely had some changes. Luckily, between the 510,000 and 726,000, we've seen that start to open up a little bit. So rates are coming back down. Which is good, and a lot of the investors are starting to open back up. But in that jumbo space over 726,000, it's still tight and a little bit more difficult to get. So you just have to be a little bit more of a qualified buyer. So I would be on the lookout for that.
So to kind of dovetail some of the stuff we've talked about at the beginning of this presentation, in these markets where we're seeing a strong seller's market, and if we can get the right amount of advertising on a property to induce multiple offers, one of the things a seller can do is we get to make a demand list, right? We get to say, I want to close in 45 days. I want to limit inspection contingencies. And one of the things I might put in my demand list is I want you to use my lender because I want to know that this deal is going to close. Or, I'm requesting product to stay out of the jumbo space with you putting at least 20% down. You can make these demands when you've marketed a property to the point that it has multiple offers. So I would definitely utilize that to protect myself. I don't want to do all of this marketing and all this advertising and expose your house to a bunch of people and then take it off the market for a customer who can't close. So assuring that piece of the puzzle is there, I think is crucial.
Agreed. I couldn't agree with you more. And the last two questions. So if I'm currently furloughed, can I still qualify for a mortgage? The short answer is yes, you can. So I have a couple clients in now that are currently furloughed, waiting for that date to get back. As long as you're back on your job and your income levels did not change, you are able to continue to close on the mortgage. So what I've been doing, like I said, I have a couple clients in now that are currently furloughed. So we're getting the entire process done and getting them ready to close. So as soon as they're back on, we verify that they're back on their job at their previous salary. And that time off, the time furloughed, does not impact their qualifications at all. And then we just kind of go right into closing. So just because you're furloughed does not mean you can't go out and try to buy a new home. And if you're a seller and you have a buyer, don't be too scared about furloughed. Furloughed simply means they're still employed. They're just on a temporary leave, if you will, and they will be back. So it's important to, if you do have a potential buyer for your home, or if you are a buyer and you're furloughed, it's just important to be in close contact with your employer, to get a real expectation as far as when you're going to be back. So I would just stay in touch with your employer and make sure that you are going to go back within a reasonable amount of time. And the last question, do I see any uptick in business since the virus started? And have I seen any changes over the week? So yeah, actually, I read an interesting article yesterday. Over the last 4 weeks, mortgage applications are up, which is awesome. So there has been a lot of activity over the last 5 days. More pre-approvals in the last 5 days than I did for probably the previous 3 weeks, which is just awesome to see. So I love that, and a lot of these buyers are going in. We're seeing a lot of multiple offer situations, people going over asking on a property that's priced right. So I'm helping those buyers through that process as well. And yeah, so definitely there is an uptick in business, and it's just refreshing to see for sure.
Thank you.
I think yeah, you're welcome. So, and I think there was a question or two, Jay. Was there somebody, did I see a question pop up? Something about a 15-year fix, maybe?
Yeah, it's asking if you see the same rate trend for a 15-year fixed mortgage.
So 15-year fix, you definitely get a benefit. The rates are in the mid to higher twos on a 15-year fix, believe it or not. So yeah, the rates on a 15-year fix are absolutely much better, probably by almost a half a point, if not a little bit more on a 15-year fixed.
Did we hit the questions?
That's it.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
So
Thank
yeah, I really miss baseball season. I'm a huge Yankees fan, and I like having the best team on the field. And so in the absence of watching Yankees games, this is the next best thing. These guys are really, they're wonderful to deal with. And whether we're working with buyers or sellers, again, Tim, thank you very much. You're awesome. So another of our teammate, let's see, first base, we have Ray Perrone. Ray is with Weichert Title. And can we get Ray on the line here?
Ready to go, Lise.
There you go, buddy. You want me to play your video?
Would you please?
Okay.
At Weichert Title Group, we know your transactions are the lifeline of your business. That's why we've innovated our way of conducting closings to accommodate today's demands. Upon scheduling your closing, our settlement officer will walk through the client's options for closing. You'll be able to close via Microsoft Teams, either in office, via drive-thru, or at the client's home. The process is simple, so let's dive in. Each party attending the lender package review or remote settlement will download Microsoft Teams to an internet-capable device with a camera and microphone, such as a tablet, smartphone, or laptop. If a buyer client does not have a capable device, Weichert Title Group will provide them with an iPad. Parties attending will receive an email invitation from the settlement officer that will contain a link saying Join Microsoft Teams Meeting. Clicking that link will admit the parties to the meeting, asking for their name. Once all parties have joined the Teams meeting, as if they were around the settlement table, the settlement will begin. The buyer will sign the documents on camera, asking any questions that may arise, and the collaborative environment will allow fluid answers and discussion. Once the documents are signed and the settlement is concluded, the video meeting will end. Your transaction is now closed, and the happy home buyers can now start the next chapter of their lives in their new home. Thank you for trusting Weichert Title Group, the gold standard in the title industry.
There you go, Ray.
Okay. Thank you. Very quickly, there are a couple things I want to touch on. Number one, I think most importantly, is it's very important to understand now more than ever, as a buyer or a seller, the offices, the real estate agencies that can offer you a full team approach to your transaction are critical. And I'm happy to say that Weichert is one of the few in the country that can provide that. As Lisa had mentioned earlier, Jason and Tim and myself, along with Janet, are part of her success team. And we have a vested interest in your success of either selling your home or buying a new one. I say all the time, my goal is very, very simple, and it aligns with Lisa's, Jason's, Tim's, and Janet's, and that is to get our buyers into the home of their dreams as quickly, as efficiently, and as conveniently as possible. We are the first title company in New Jersey that came up with the video closings. We have several options for our closers. We can do a social distancing close where we meet either in an attorney's office or in one of our offices. The only people that are allowed to attend are the buyers, and that means just the buyers themselves, not their children or extended family or well-wishers. The buyer's attorney, in most cases it would be Janet, and our settlement officer. And we're all, we adhere to the CDC guidelines very, very strictly. The second opportunity that we have to close is where we drop the documents off ahead of time. We must observe the signing. Our settlement agent must observe the signing in person. We've done it through storm doors. We've done it with cars in a parking lot. There's a lot of different ways to do it. We'll be creative and do whatever you, our client, is most comfortable with. And then what really has become the most popular over the last about 3 weeks since we introduced it are our video closings. So imagine this, you're buying your home, you can actually sit in your current house or apartment, if you will, or if you're able to go to work, and not have to leave and give up a great deal of time to attend your closing. And actually, our closings take less than an hour. Generally, we've been around 45 minutes, 43 to 45 minutes, which is unheard of. If you've been involved in transactions before, many of them are upwards to 2 hours or more. We have streamlined the process. We've done everything in advance. As the video said, the settlement agent would get in touch with you the day before. We review the documents with you. You simply, as we're doing today, a video call. You as the buyer, your attorney, your real estate agent, and the settlement agent are part of the closing, and everyone does what they have to do. We answer any questions, and we're off to the races. We had yesterday, and I will tell you this, we're very, very fortunate. We are one of the largest title companies in the state. We had our single largest number of closings yesterday for the year, and which is phenomenal considering that we are generally about 6 to 8 weeks behind, right? So if somebody entered into a contract today, the closing would probably be, what are we, mid-May, mid-June, would probably be into the middle of July, beginning to middle of July. So if you think back where we were 6 or 8 weeks ago with the pandemic and what was going on, I think it's a tribute that our buyers and sellers stayed the course. Yes, some did take listings off. That lasted about a week, and they saw that other houses were being sold, and a number of them came back on. And again, as the industry came up with the guidelines that we need, Lisa has done a great job with making sure that there is strict adherence to the CDC guidelines for showings and working with our clients as it relates to coming into a listing. So our teams are working virtually. They're actually working more than they worked before. They're working 10 and 12-hour days. We have them working 6 and in some cases 7 days a week to make sure that we're processing our title requests. I shared with Lisa and Jason and Tim and Janet a little bit earlier today. We got some great news yesterday that several of the local county offices are beginning to open up and allow searchers to now physically go into the offices and do the title searches that need to be done. Much of it is done digitally online, but it's somewhat time restrictive. By that, I mean we can only go back so far to what they've placed online. And it's still critical that our searchers are able to go into the Hall of Records, for example, in Morristown, and obtain the information that we need to bring you to the closing table. And I'll close with this. Understand that we all have a vested interest in your buying or selling success. There were very few other, those of you that have maybe looked at mortgages online, you have to call an 800 number and hit about 7 different prompts to get to someone. With Tim, you're going to call him directly and get him. For those folks that have, and actually this week, I spoke to 4 of our buyers and 2 people who just listed their homes and answered title questions for them. One of the listing folks that had just listed their house was through a inheritance, and there were some questions there. We were able to get an answer for them. You're not going to be able to do that with any other title company in the state. And I'm very happy and proud to make that statement. So we have a vested interest in your success in either selling your house or buying your home. We work as a team with Lisa and Jason. We have a commitment to you and to them. And we are 100% accessible. As Tim said, somebody came to his house at 9:30 the other night, dropped off documents. We take phone calls, 7 days a week and get everything back to you and to your attorneys as quickly and as efficiently as we can. And if I can just put one other takeaway on this, please, please, please use a real estate attorney. Janet is magnificent. She's wonderful. She has saved so many transactions from going sideways because she knows the lay of the land. She's very, very competent. She has a great calming demeanor. She's a pit bull. She's going to get us to where we need to be, but it's critical. The times that we have serious problems is when it's somebody's neighbor's son's brother's something who is a litigation attorney, and they all have their role to play. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But especially in these times, you need a real estate specialist. You need a real estate attorney, an attorney who only works with real estate transactions to navigate this terrain.
Awesome.
So with that, I'll answer any questions as we move forward.
So I think, Ray, that was a perfect segue into to Janet. So let's bring Janet up, and Janet can talk to us a little bit about what she's seeing in the market today. Any challenges, anything that we need to look out for.
Absolutely. Can you hear me, Lisa?
I can hear you.
Okay. Somehow I think I started this video here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ray. I really appreciate that. It's, you know, it is true to use a real estate attorney. It doesn't have to be me. I hope it is, but it doesn't have to be. But that is one of the most important things. And if the attorney on the other side of the transaction is not a real estate attorney, what happens is I end up doing their job for them. And you know, I'm happy to do it for my clients, but it just, you know, it can cause delays and things like that when they can't be proactive about what the issues are because they can't see them coming. But let me just tell you a little bit about myself real quick. It's Janet Navarro, and my office is in Denville, primary office, I should say. These days we're all working from home, from my car. I'll go wherever I need to go to make transactions happen. But I have seen Denville in particular, you know, this week even, the number of contracts I have gotten in just far exceeded anything we've seen. So that's pretty exciting. But I did want to say also one of the things I could offer as a tip for buyers and sellers, even not in the COVID market, is to work with a team of people. So, you know, when I get the call from Lisa, I have a buyer that would like to, you know, refer you to. I can't even tell you how happy I am to work with this team. I'm not affiliated with Weichert, but when I work with this team, I know that we're going to have good communication throughout. Lisa's going to give me a call and say, here are the 10 things you need to know about this transaction. And I can get that contract through attorney review so much quicker because I've had all that information relayed to me. And if an issue comes up during inspections and there's maybe credits we're thinking about, you know, we can get Tim involved. You know, can we do this? Is there any concerns? Will this cause any delays? And even, you know, with title. So Weichert Title allows us to order title as soon as possible without causing a charge to a buyer for that title work if the contract falls through. So we can order title as soon as we get out of attorney review and get that process started. So that it's the communication and the ability for everybody to sort of understand what their role is in the transaction that really makes a smooth closing. So if you don't choose us, at least choose a team of people to work with. You'll really see the difference in the results and the stress level for the transaction. Just a couple tips to and again, this is pre-COVID, but you know, before you're listing your home, if you do a home inspection, you'll find all those items that might come up during the inspection phase that can really slow things down. So if you have a big repair issue, maybe you didn't even know about it. If you do that home inspection, you can take care of it beforehand. And just locate all of your documents, your deed, your title policy. If you have a survey, you can share that with the buyer. They might be able to insure it. All those things just help to make things smooth and things move quick throughout the transaction. One thing that has changed a little bit in COVID is that the building departments and municipalities, many of them are closed. So if you have open permits, if you can get them closed as soon as possible, if that building department's open. And then if not, at least you'll know that permit is closed and we could let the buyers know you'll take care of it after the closing or whatever needs to be done. So we can just be proactive about things. And then the things I'm doing a little bit differently because of COVID is like I was saying, just being proactive, ordering documents early, ordering title early, If you've been divorced, get me those judgments of divorce so we can take care of clearing those judgments. And if you're buying a condo, I will order those condo documents earlier than usual, take a look at the governing documents, the bylaws, all of that, so we can get through that quickly. And everything I do is to try to prevent delay so you can close on time. And then overall, it's as always, it's patience and flexibility. But like Ray said, you know, I can't emphasize enough how flexible and patient most people are during this COVID. You know, everybody understands if you need an additional document, you know, we're not doing this for fun. It's because we need it, and everybody's been really cooperative. So I found that really, you know, making my job easier and a lot less stress for everybody. So unless there's any questions, that's all I wanted to say.
I'm not seeing anything come in. Janet, I
Okay.
have to tell you, it's again, the fact that you're so accessible, available, you're real, and working with you and working with this team, you are able to foresee anything that, you know, could trip us up in the future. And you
Yeah.
know, that's the best kind of, having that experience is the best way to proceed through these transactions. They're difficult enough, right?
Right. Exactly. Yes, it's been a pleasure working with everybody.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Do you want us to bring you on live, or have we done such a great job in answering all your questions? All right, got Mary Ann here.
I'll pretend that I'll ask some questions that I think that we're hearing a lot, and maybe some people will be inspired. Something came in.
I think we have one from Mary Ann, that are buyers asking for any unusual COVID requests, like cleaning the house before moving in terms of moving in when they close and move in.
So I've heard some, just a handful of cases, people requesting a professional cleaning, you know, the day before closing. I mean, and that's a nominal cost to accommodate that. So I certainly wouldn't have that stand in the way of a closing. But in general, we haven't seen a big surge in that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary either. I mean, the expectation when a buyer closes is that they have, you know, a nice clean home. You know, think of it as if you were moving into that home. So, you know, the expectation is there, but I really haven't seen anything that goes above and beyond what the standard would be.
Let's do so. Let's say I'm coming out of New York City and I'm looking to buy. I don't know any of these communities. I don't know any of these towns. I've got a price of $500,000 that I can spend. You know, what are you? How are you and your team going to be guiding me? How are you going to point me in a direction to go if I came to you like that?
So I mean, there are a whole host of questions. I mean, you just scratched the surface with, I'm coming from New York. I have $500,000. What am I going to do? There are some different ways to approach it. The first thing that you do is you do a real in-depth conversation. You know, do you have kids? Are school systems important? You know, do you like certain amenities? Do you like certain towns? Do you like certain activities? Do you like to be close to parks versus do you need a train station? So there are a million questions that come out of understanding what it is you want. And, you know, do you need to be close to your job? Do you need to be close to transit? Along those lines, you know, as soon as that buyer consultation happens, the very first thing that I do is I introduce that potential client to Tim, because we really do need to understand, you know, you have $500,000. Do you think that's, you know, do you think that, or is that truly your purchasing power? So Tim will do a true analysis on, you know, you might think that you can afford less than you really can, or vice versa. So having Tim as part of that process helps us understand really how to guide you. Did I answer your question, Jay?
Let's spin it around on the other. So I'm a seller. I live in a Morris County area. You know, what do I need to do to get my house ready to be in the best position to sell?
Okay, so again, part of the process is, why are you selling? Where are you going? Do you need to sell, or is this something that you would like to do, and what's your time frame? So understanding your particular situation, again, it's as specific as we were talking about before. Real estate is very specific, situation specific. Your situation will help us guide you properly. So if if you're looking to sell, are there any things that need to be done to your home? Very good practice is to do an upfront pre-inspection, as Janet had pre-listing inspection, as Janet had counseled, to understand and cut off any of the potential inspection items that a buyer might find. That guidance of, really having that understanding of your situation will help us guide you.
I think the only other thing I would bring up is, some of our sellers, particularly our older sellers, already have their next home. And a lot of them maybe had a vacation home or a property they just recently bought. If we can move our people into another property, we are seeing increased showings on vacant properties. The market seems to respond to those more favorably right now. So, obviously not all of our clients have that ability, but if you do, I think that puts us in a great position to show your house at a very high level.
Yeah, yeah. And I often guide people not to make huge major renovations. If you need an updated kitchen or whatever, price it appropriately and let the new buyer do that work. But if there are some things that you can do, paint is cheap, some things that will help improve the buyer's impression of your home, that will basically help you get your home sold faster for a more reasonable amount of money with less stress. So, taking some of those upfront planning things certainly helps. We're in a situation now where we have had some really gorgeous move-in ready homes come onto the market. And so what happens? They have multiple offers, and there's competition because people are just looking for that kind of home to move into. So, that preparation and that planning, and for those sellers, kudos to them because they have readied their homes to make it the best product for the potential buyer. So
I'm going to give you one last one. I think the market's, you're telling me the market's is hot. It's a seller's market. Price is going up. I'm going to wait to go on until as prices continue to rise.
So, again, we talked about there being, you don't know what the future holds. We talked about there being a supply and demand issue. There's an inventory shortage right now. We have very qualified buyers who are not tire kickers. They are serious buyers who are looking to move. Interest rates are low for them. You have good qualified people. And you may not have as many buyers on the market, but you have a very good base of buyers who are ready, willing, and able to buy your home right now. If you're in a position that you want to sell or you need to sell, and you're thinking now versus the future, what's the driving factor? Why not now? Interest rates are great. Interest is great.
I think we're very much in a spring market scenario, right? So, timing in life is so important. And, right now you're in a position to get out ahead of the competition, and that limited demand is going to be beneficial for you as a seller. The risk is at a certain point, the inventory is going to wake up and start to catch up to that buyer demand, and we're going to see a flattening or even declining values. So, I've been using a double Dutch analogy that, our buyers and sellers are on their outside trying to decide when they should jump in and be a part of this market. And, you're always at a risk of jumping too early or too late. But we're seeing very good indications that, these properties are going quick. We do not know how long that's going to maintain.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm a big believer in preparation and planning, and that leads to success. So you have a plan, you execute it, and you get the results. And there's no reason to wait if you're planning appropriately.
Yeah. We've got a good question coming in from Teddy, and he's saying, do you have any insights to the New York City co-op market? We're in the midst of a New York City co-op closing that is delayed because the building is locked down and seller can't move out and we can't move in. New York City Realtor believes 1 million market is good and will recover like prior disruptions. So, Lisa and I are not licensed in New York, so I'm hesitant to give much information in an area that we're not licensed in and don't follow. But I think there's going to be greater short-term disruption in that market versus ours. I'm sure information is going to start to come out to tell us more about that story. But New York City is resilient. I can think of probably half a dozen times they said New York was kaput, in the last 30 years, and it still seems to be kicking and have some of the healthiest markets in the country.
Any other questions? There we go. Nope. Okay. So we ran over time, and we thank you for sticking with us. We hope that we've communicated to you some valuable information. So let me just hit one more question. Nancy asks about a house that sold next door in January. Has the market climate changed between now and then in terms of price? So Nancy, what I would talk with you about is like specifically where you are, what market you're in, and then do that numbers and do those analyses to figure out, the market today versus the January market for the home in the area that you're in. So I'll definitely, I'd like to follow up with each of you after this call, just to make sure that we've answered your questions, to see if we can help you with anything. And just to kind of stay in touch. Please know that you have a resource in us, and we would be more than happy to help you guys in any way that you need. So again, I started to say that we ran over. We appreciate your sticking with us, and we hope that you got some valuable information from this call. And we thank you again for joining us. So with that, I think we're going to end the call. And just say thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.